All right, welcome back to Biggest Little Victory. This is Stephen, and we have Kendra, and we are actually joined this time by Doug and Leslie. So we are excited to dive deep into this week's sermon that David just shared with us on Sunday. And we're going to be going through John chapter 21, where Jesus appears to his 7 followers again, and just kind of dive a little bit into what it means to seek God, and actually even supposed to be seeking him, or is he already available? But before we get into that, we're going to have some announcements. So Kendra, if you could share those announcements for us.
All right, everybody, as per usual, go ahead and give us a like on Facebook at Victory Christian Fellowship. Follow us on Instagram at VCF Reno and YouTube at VCF Reno. Follow us on Twitter at BLV Podcast. Okay, now on to the more important things. So our social media presence is going to start drawing back a little bit while we are finally going back into normality. So Zoom meetings are a little different. So listen up. Every morning we're still doing the morning fellowship at 8 a.m. every weekday. It's been incredible. I love that it's part of my routine. Hopefully it sticks on even after we are able to see each other in person. Bible study with Rhiannon every Thursday at 6:30 or 6. Crap, I don't have that in here. But every Thursday at 6 or 6:30, she goes through a Bible study, and our live devotionals are changing from every weeknight to 3 nights a week. That's going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So keep an eye out for those. And if you have prayer requests, Pastor Liz is taking those and emailing them to the pastoral staff every evening. She posts where she would like them sent on Facebook. So main thing, follow us on Facebook so you can get those Zoom meeting links and you can see when we do our live devotionals and all of the fun stuff that we're still trying to do while everything's trying but slowly but surely going back to normal. So keep an eye out for those, and that's it.
Awesome. So obviously we are very excited with the stay-at-home order ending at this point on May 15th. That doesn't mean we're going to be resuming services the following week at all. There is a phase-in plan, but we are really excited that once we get to meet in person again, then you also will get to hear this podcast a little bit differently because we'll all be in a studio in the same room instead of on Zoom. But we are really excited to get to see all of you again. And if you are a listener not in town and we don't get to hug you when this is all over, then virtual hugs will still be sent out because we love everybody. So we are going to go ahead and jump into the verse. It is John chapter 21, verses 1 through 14. As always, I'm going to be reading out of the New Century Version. If you have a different version, just follow along or sit back and listen. And then we'll get right into discussion with Doug and Leslie. Later, Jesus showed himself to his followers again, this time at Lake Galilee. This is how he showed himself. Some of the followers were together: Simon Peter, Thomas, called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the 2 sons of Zebedee, and 2 other followers. Simon Peter said, "I am going out to fish." The other said, "We will go with you." So they went out and got into the boat, and they fished that night, but caught nothing. Early the next morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the followers did not know it was Jesus. Then he said to them, "Friends, did you catch any fish?" They answered, "No." He said, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they did. And they caught so many fish that they could not pull the net back into the boat. The follower whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Peter heard him say this, he wrapped his coat around himself. Peter had taken his clothes off. Then he jumped into the water. The other followers went to shore in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. They were not very far from shore, only about 100 yards. When the followers stepped out of the boat and onto the shore, they saw a fire of hot coals. There were fish on the fire, and there was bread. Then Jesus said, "Bring some of the fish you just caught." Simon Peter went into the boat and pulled the net to the shore. It was full of big fish, 153 in all. But even though there were so many, the net did not tear. Jesus said to them, "Come and eat." None of the followers dared ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, along with the fish. This was now the 3rd time Jesus showed himself to his followers after he was raised from the dead. So, huge part of that whole thing is I love just the emphasis on, and it's really not huge spiritually or scripturally, just huge in the fact that it makes a point of saying for Peter had taken his clothes off. It's like it made a whole point of saying that Peter put his coat on because he had also taken his clothes off. I don't know.
And not only that, but having to have all that on would probably make it, harder to swim. So why would, you put it back on?
Well, that and modesty wasn't really a thing back then. So he was probably just like, hello world, here I come.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, right.
Just, was it loincloth, Peter, or was it really just nothing?
I'm going to say it was birthday suit.
Probably.
The part, so reading this passage again with David sharing it on Sunday, the part that there was several parts of it that stood out to me because this is a passage that I've heard before and I've heard it so many times, but when you read it again after so long, this is honestly the first time that I've read through it again in a really long time, there was a lot of details that I didn't realize were a part of this story. I just heard about Jesus saying, cast your net on the other side, and suddenly they caught all this fish, and that's kind of where my brain ended the whole thing. But not knowing, I forgot about the fact that Jesus had a fire going, he had some fish, and then it was even like a callback to his early miracle about the fish and the bread, because he also had bread there. So I was like, remember the fish and the loaves? It's like, if you don't get the hint by now of who I am. But let me ask Leslie, let me start with you. What's something that stood out to you about this verse?
About this verse, I actually, like how you said, I didn't pay attention to the details before. And then, so like when I was reading it right now, and actually when I was reading it like before, I was like, I don't remember that being there. I was like, I don't think I read the right Bible or something because that wasn't there when I first read it. No, but I remember it saying like, he didn't have any clothing or anything, but I think that part kind of like stuck out to me the most because I never really thought, that's awkward. I was like, why don't they have it? Why is it, what's going on? But then I realized, I was like, okay, you know what, at the time that it probably wasn't that big of a deal. I was like, at that time, they really didn't think anything of it. So I think that part was the part that like stood out the most.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think back to there was a passage where it says King David stripped down to, I think, to his loincloth because he was celebrating when they took over Jerusalem for the first time. They took it from the Jebusites, and so he was dancing around pretty much naked, and his wife was just like, oh. It was just like so embarrassed, like, like, what are you doing? And he
We
was
call
just
those frat boys now.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not married to him.
And I think his response was something like that, like, I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for God, okay? But it's just like...
So does that give us reason to do it?
I would say no. Only because that is a stumbling block to other people, and we don't want to be...
You. Don't worry, this is for God.
I don't think that would fly.
No, you would still get taken to jail.
Excuse right there.
What about you, Doug? What stood out to you about this passage?
Kind of the same thing, but at the same time, it makes me also kind of think of how easy it is for us to kind of get caught up in the things that are not really important. Because to me, one of the more important parts was the whole fact that Peter jumped out of the boat and kind of, ran to Jesus right after, he denied him. And the fact that, the first thing I noted, like the biggest thing that I first noticed was the whole Peter being naked thing is just kind of made me realize how sometimes we focus on the not so important things.
Well, and I think about too, like if this was kind of like his redemption also to when he was walking on water and then sank because he saw the waves and stopped focusing on Jesus. Like it doesn't say that he walked on water this time, but I wonder if this time, his focus was completely different. Like now he's not scared of anything. Now he's just like, let me grab my coat and let's go. Let's get to shore. What about you, Kendra?
So all of you are a lot more schooled on the gospel than I am. So I had heard this story before, but really nothing stuck with me because I wasn't in the right heart space to have it be stuck. So hearing it this time around, I did not focus on the fact that Peter was naked.
Come on.
What I focused on was, what Doug said, where, sometimes it's okay to step out of your comfort zone and move from one side to the other. And it's that simple sometimes, is that all you got to do is move 7 feet to the left and boom, you're right where you need to be. And you're going to get what you're looking for. And then once that happens, you tear off your clothing and you swim to Jesus because you're just so grateful and you're so thankful and you know exactly who you're going towards. And then you get there and you realize that he didn't even need to tell you where that fish was because he has some for you. He's already making it, and there it is. So now all your catch goes to wherever it needs to go. You don't have to use it for this one extra breakfast. And so I don't know. I think it's just really important to realize that turn around, and that can be the turning point for you. And I'm not just talking about basic Christianity. I'm talking about stepping out of your comfort zone at your job, or sticking up for yourself to somebody who just bugs you and keeps picking at you. So not saying to like start a fight or anything, that came out wrong, but just realizing that doing something that you've never done before could be the right thing to do to move you forward.
Yeah. And how often sometimes is the answer right there in front of your face when you might think it's so complicated and so difficult to find, and yet there it is provided for you, and we're just not looking at it. We're just not looking in the right direction. We're looking for the wrong thing. But I really liked that you made that little soundbite about turning around and looking if it was just within 7 feet of where you are, because that leads us perfectly into our little excerpt from this Sunday's sermon. As always, this is not an excuse to not go listen to it. If you missed it, then you need to go check that out. You need to stop listening to us because you're crazy and go check out the sermon and then come back and listen to us. But here is a little excerpt from Sunday. It's about a minute long, so just bear with us and we will be right back.
As we pursue the holiness of God, we have to understand what we're actually pursuing, because pursuing the holiness of God does not mean pursuing and looking for and finding or playing some divine cosmic game of hide and go seek with the Lord. No, we've got to pursue the holiness of the Lord, but if we're putting all of that energy into pursuing and looking for and finding God, then we're putting all of our energy into the wrong fuel tank. And Jesus is saying, change the way you think because I'm right here. He's not hiding. He doesn't need to be found. Turn around. I'm right here. Change the way you think. Look the other way. I'm right here.
So with that little excerpt, one, I just love how fired up he gets about that, about like turning around, just because it's like he's right there. And I guess I have always had this idea, like most people, that seeking God is this really mysterious, heavy task that we have to look really hard. Like, where is he? Where is he in today's world? Where is he in my life right now? As much as it either is awesome or is terrible. And the contrary is being told through the Bible, through Scripture, that he's right there. He's always been right there. And if we feel like we have to go on this big epic adventure to find him, then we're missing the point. We should have just stopped for a second, turned around and looked at, oh, there he is all along. He was just waiting for us to notice him. He's making it obvious, just like he was making it obvious for his apostles now, for his disciples, that he was calling back all these different miracles. Like, look, there's the bread and the fish. Look, there's me telling you to cast your nets on the other side. And so it's like all these repeats of things and themes that he had throughout his ministry to get their attention, and they could have easily missed it. But what is something that you got from the sermon? We'll just go back around again. Doug, we'll start with you.
I really like what David was saying. He doesn't need to be found, because I really like that, because I think, we always say we gotta find Jesus and we gotta find God, but maybe it's not so much about finding God, but finding ourselves in a way in God. So, because sometimes I feel like people can think that finding God takes this huge preparation, and you have to be ready, and there has to be a perfect moment and a perfect time. But in reality, it's just that God's not only been there where you're at, like, not He's there with you, but the fact that it can be something that you can get to that moment no matter the time. It doesn't have to be anything specific. And I feel like sometimes we try to put that it has to be a perfect moment type thing.
Leslie, what about you?
I love the imagery of him like saying that it's like a little kid, that God is like a little kid playing hide and seek, because it's so true. Like, as I started to like walk with God and everything, like I didn't think I could ever like have such a close relationship with him, because I was like, I'm not perfect. Like, I haven't met this yet. I haven't done this yet. Like, I haven't read the Bible all the way. I don't know all these stories yet. And like, I made it so much harder on myself than it really was. And God was like, I'm right here. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm literally right in front of you. Like, you don't need to do all that to know me. Like, you don't need to do all that to have that relationship with me. And so when David mentioned that, like, he's like a little kid playing hide and seek, he's right there. That part really like hit me. I was like, he really is. And even now, like, sometimes I'm like, okay, God, like, what do I do for this, or where do I do this? And the answer is like right next to me, and I'm like slowly just pushing it away, because when you see the little kids, you try and give him like that excitement that you can't see them, but they're really there. Like, I do that, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to see you yet. Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to find you.
Right.
And yeah, and so like that was like my most favorite part when he said that, because I was like, okay, you need to stop doing that. Like, he's right there, and the answers that he gives you are right in front of your face. Like, just open your eyes, just look over to the left, like, it's right there.
That's great. No, it's funny too, because I think about, there was a time when I would play hide and seek, and like when I was really good, like I hid in a spot that no one ever found me, and I actually had to like crawl out of it. But it wasn't when I was a little kid. So if I think about like the way like my skills as a hide and seek player as like a 5-year-old were pretty terrible. It was like, oh, here's a blanket, let me hide under this. You can't see me now, I'm under a blanket. It's like that was clearly the logic. I can't see you, so you can't possibly see me.
Which is that's so funny. I'm just picturing I'm just picturing the kids in my life doing that, and it's making me laugh really hard. Just like getting underneath the blanket, like, nope, you can't see me. And it's just so funny, because it's crazy to think that we used to think like that too. which scares me, because I'm like, no, I'm hecka smart, man. Like,
yeah, right.
Well, you felt that way as a kid too.
Get to see that big lump.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
This lump was always here. It's like...
that huge bump right there, it's always in there.
Right, and then they're like still moving, but since they think that they can't hear you or they can't see them, they don't even think that all the movement will bring it.
Exactly. Oh, and their little laugh, they can never take their little laugh.
There's always a giggle. There's always a chuckle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I mean, if that is honestly the picture of God being right behind us, like if it's
and looking for us, like, is that us? Like, are
right.
we the little child underneath the blanket? Like, I can't see you, so you can't see me.
Exactly.
Like, if anything, that just makes it how pathetic we think we are. Like how pathetic our attempts are at hiding from him. We're just like, nope, I'm invisible. You were just not going to look in this direction. You're just going to keep walking.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
That's great.
I see it.
That's a good metaphor. It's a good metaphor.
It really is. It's so good. Kendra, did you get anything different?
Not from what I said earlier. What I said earlier is pretty much exactly what I got from that.
Gotcha.
Was, because when I said turn 7 feet, I got that from Pastor David's sermon. I did not come up with that. So,
Wait a second.
right. But
It's called plagiarism.
it's
Are
not
you kidding me?
plagiarism. He's my father.
She gave credit. There's a bibliography. There's
right. Source material.
What's it called? Works cited.
Right. But it is. I think just to reiterate, I think it is really important to realize that, all you got to do is turn around at 180 or even 45 degrees, and boom, there he is. It's just a matter. And it's some like Doug said, even when you're not looking for it, it can happen. And that my story fits that perfectly. I was not looking to have a relationship with God. I was not looking to pursue pastorship, a year and a half ago. And now here I am, and I feel his hand on my shoulder every day. So it hit me like a freaking freight train. It was not easy. I laid in bed like wide-eyed all night, like, what is happening right now? So it can be an incredible moment, and it doesn't have to just be a buttload of fish. It can be a freight train to the face. So my first question is, and we'll ask Lezlie first. So how do you suggest people stop, quote unquote, seeking God and just realize that they're already close to him? And just as a disclaimer for this, I have an oxymoronic answer to this as well, because I do know that people do I hear that you should seek God all the time. So I'm curious to see your outlook on it, on how you suggest that we stop seeking and just realizing that he's there.
Yeah, so for me personally, it took me a lot, but pretty much learning just to stop being selfish and stop being so petty sometimes, and just understanding that the more that I try and seek and find and all these things, and make it my own type of game that I'm trying to play, where am I going to find this now, or where am I going to do this, that just never worked. And I think people just need to stop, breathe for a minute, and think, am I in the mindset of doing what I want to do for myself, or am I in the mindset of doing what God wants me to do? And really understand that, and understand yourself. And don't seek and chase God and ask for things, because once you do that, you just get tired of not getting what you want. And I think that pushes you away from God more than anything, because you just seek and seek and seek. And if you don't receive back what you asked for, it's okay, God, I don't want to play this game anymore. You're not giving me back what I'm asking for or what I need. And so in those relationships, God is trying to teach us, that this isn't the type of relationship that I want with you. It's not you ask me for this and I'm going to give it to you and that's it. Go live your life. I want you to live this relationship with me of, okay, I'm right here. I will walk with you alongside all of these troubles, all of the things that, come into your life, but you have to realize that, and you have to want to walk with me, because I can't stress enough, the fact that he doesn't want anything to be forced with us. He doesn't want that forced relationship, because I don't think a forced relationship has ever worked. And so he just wants us to stop, breathe, and think, am I going to accept that I can fully love myself and fully love God and know that he's with me every single day, not just sometimes? Or am I just going to partially love myself and partially want God only when I need something for myself to feel a little bit more complete?
All right. Wow. Preach it, sister. All right, Mr. Doug. Now you have 2 big shoes to fill.
Yeah, now I don't want to go. I think my connection is kind of going off.
Nope, there's no passes in this.
Okay. Part of it, I think, has to do with what Leslie was saying, selfishness. As you know, as bad it might sound, sometimes we are so looking so much into our brokenness and our own, our own mistakes and everything that we've done, and we just keep looking into that same brokenness to so much that we don't notice that God is like right beside us, right behind us. And as simple as it can be, just kind of turning around. We keep looking at this brokenness and we keep focusing on these things instead of kind of opening up our eyes and noticing that God is still there no matter what. So I think not only is it kind of coming up to that realization that no matter what the brokenness is that you have in your heart, you can still kind of find God. So it's not like God is kind of hiding from you.
Yeah, that's honestly so true. Just we get so caught up, I think, in what we want out of life and what we expect out of God and what we expect out of faith that we end up looking for him in a way that we think we need. And so it becomes about what we think God is all about. And he's trying to teach us that there's a different way to seek him and there's a different way that we need to be finding him. That really the search, like, and again, we use that word to go seek him, but really it's just, again, it's doing something that is probably very, very obvious for us, and yet we're not doing it. It's like one of the most obvious choices, and yet it's the last one we choose because we think it has to be so much more complicated than that, or because like you and Doug, you and Leslie have both said about like the selfishness and wanting to do it our way and not wanting to find him until we're ready to find him, and just that level of looking only at the small picture and not the big picture, then we're missing what he's actually trying to say and what he's actually trying to do in our lives. But when I was thinking about this verse too, or thinking about this message of seeking God and is he already there or not, I immediately thought of, the 29th chapter of Jeremiah, the one that people love to quote, especially the 11th verse. But just to give some context, this wasn't so much about just a general promise to everyone, but this is very specifically to the people in Jerusalem, and it's about what's going on with them in the future with Babylon. And but it has a really good, when you look at the whole context, it has a really good wrap up on this whole seeking thing, at least in terms of what they were going through. So it says in Jeremiah 29, and starts in verse 10, "This is what the Lord says: Babylon will be powerful for 70 years. After that time, I will come to you, and I will keep my promise to bring you back to Jerusalem. I say this because I know what I am planning for you, says the Lord. I have good plans for you, not plans to hurt you. I will give you hope and a good future. Then you will call my name. You will come to me and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will search for me, and when you search for me with all your heart, you will find me. I will let you find me, says the Lord, and I will bring you back from your captivity. I forced you to leave this place, but I will gather you from all the nations, from the places I have sent you as captives, says the Lord, and I will bring you back to this place." So just that part in verse 13 and 14, where it says, when you search for me with all your heart, you'll find me. I will let you find me. So it's not so much that he's like, you're going to have to search for me for a real long time, and it's going to be hard, and I'm going to be elusive, and you're going to be frustrated. He just said, I will let you find me. I will make it easy. I'm going to make it so simple that you can just come and find me. So I think that I just love that ties in perfectly to what Pastor David is saying about the fact that he's literally so close.
Well, it also goes on to like the oxymoronic thing of not seeking God, but also needing to see God, because he's basically telling you right there, like, come and find me. What is the seek in hide and seek? You're finding, you're seeking. So it's like, I had a hard time with Pastor David's message because he kept saying, we need to stop seeking it. We need to stop seeking it. And so I plan on having a little bit more in-depth conversation with him about it. And so hopefully I'm a little bit more in tune with what he was trying to say after we have that conversation. But every time he said that we need to not seek God, I sat there and I was like, how the heck else do some people need to seek him, in that moment where we feel like, if he doesn't show me that he's here right now, this could be, the end of whatever it is, I can get into it, but I'm not going to. So it's some people seek him in that moment, and most of the time he shows himself, in some tiny way. And it's not by like him manifesting in front of you and I am God and I will fix this problem for you. No, that's not how it works. Whether it's, to go to the extreme, whether it's you're thinking about stepping out in front of a car, and you're just thinking about, okay, this is it, I'm done. And unless something is shown to me that this is not the end, I'm going to make it the end. And as you start walking the step out in front of that car, a bicyclist comes up and comes right in front of you and stops you from stopping in front of that car. So it's just a matter of that. It's the people, and it's the events that you need to really be looking for, and not Family Guy's depiction of God. So the robe and the white hair and the beard, he may look like that, sure, and I get why people keep thinking that he looks like that, but he doesn't look like that. He looks like that bicyclist who just stopped you from making a terrible decision. He looks like that second that your cat jumps up and pours over your alcoholic beverage that you shouldn't be drinking. And it's just those tiny little things. And I think that's kind of what he's trying to get at. It's not so much that, and I think that's the problem with most people who struggle with Christianity, is that they expect that physical manifestation. They expect a lightning bolt to come down and everything's different, and that's not how it is. This isn't Greek mythology, this is Jesus. So it's, I don't know, I'm having kind of a hard time grasping what he meant, and I think I'm kind of like on the coattails of it. But because like I said, I wasn't seeking him at all, but I know certain people in my life are seeking him. They come up to me and they're like, hey, talk to me about Jesus. I'm like, cool. I didn't even have to approach you about it, because we're not Jehovah's Witnesses. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but we don't do that. We're not like, hey, do you have a moment to talk about Jesus? Some of us are, sure, but us younger generation are not. We're not like that. We're open about our Christianity, sure, but we're not like, let's talk about Jesus. I can't talk about anything else. And I know people like that, but they're just of the older generation. So I don't know.
No, I think what you're trying to say.
I had to watch it twice, and I still didn't. I was sitting here and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it, Dad. Okay. I don't get what you're trying to say to me. I don't get how are we supposed to find him if we don't seek him?
Yeah, well, I think sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but sometimes I think it's like the hybrid approach. Like, I think for some people, it is as simple as stopping what you're doing, turning around and trying something else completely different than what you would normally try. But I think there are some people that it takes them a while, because I've heard of testimonies and stories of people who they came to Jesus after a long time of searching and trying out other beliefs and other ways of life, and so when they first started getting into the Christianity, they were like, okay, well, I've heard all the holes, I've heard all the arguments against the Bible, so I want to see, is it true? And so they go on this long journey that is honestly really helpful to them, because they look at the Bible. Can we trust the Bible? Where does it come from? They're looking at the sources, they're looking at who wrote it, they're looking at how we translated it, and why we have all these different versions and translations. And so they're going on this long journey that eventually does lead them to Jesus. And then they are able to say, man, he was right there. He was right there the whole time, but I didn't know that until I went on this journey, until I did all this searching. So sometimes I wonder if it's a little of both. Like, if some people are just able to turn around and go, oh, there he is. Oh, man, Jesus, why didn't you tell me you were there? And then I feel like other people need to take the time to actually make their faith their own.
Right. And it's a personal experience for everybody, because that's how mine was. I wasn't searching. I turned around and boom, there he was, right in my face, smacking me right in it. Like, where you been?
Even the Bible.
Right. I've been looking for you.
Jesus is kind of like your big brother, sounds like.
I don't know. I'm an oldest child, so I
Well,
don't.
there you go. I am not, so.
Yeah, no, I was about to say I was the Jesus, but that's not at all what I meant. Like, I was the bully of the household with my siblings. But anyway, besides the point. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's personal experiences. All of us have different coming to Jesus stories,
Yeah.
you know, and all of us find it differently. He finds us differently. That's just how it is, whether we were actively seeking it or we weren't.
Yeah, and I think that's what people
Yeah.
need to remember too, is that like we all have different ways of how we got to walking with God, because people like, well, people that I've like encountered with, they're like, oh, well, you're probably perfect. You don't do anything. You don't like cuss. You don't do this. You don't do that. And I'm just like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, you know, there's still things that I've done that I'm just like, I do not deserve to be loved as much as God loves me. Like, you know, but he was always right there, and it was never always like, you know, right in front of my face. Well, it was always right in front of my face, but I always, you know, was like, let me go behind this and, you know, look for something else instead. But people need to like really realize that, you know, everybody's walk is different, and sometimes it's right there and sometimes you just push it away.
I'm gonna say sometimes what you're talking about just made me think how sometimes God's not the one hiding, we're the ones hiding. And I feel like sometimes we have so much we're like seeking this way of these things or this type of miracle to happen, of these things that, and we focus so much on it that we kind of ignore Jesus being like right by our side. Like we focus so much on these other things that we're looking for that we think what God is and what He's gonna show up to be like, but in reality He's just like on the other side waiting for us to just turn around.
So, Pastor Lezlie, what do you do when you feel that God is not near you?
So I personally, those times when I feel like God is not near me are the times when I get into that mindset where I can do it on my own and I don't need God at the moment right now. And so personally, I start retracing my steps, and like when you lose something and you're trying to find it and you don't remember where you left it and you go back and look like, okay, where did I leave it? That's kind of like what I do. I like retrace my steps, and I try and think, and I pray to God, like, I know this was me. I know it wasn't you. Like, where, at what point did I get to this is for me, like, I got it under control mindset. So I try and look for that. And I'm not saying either that like like you're going to lose God and you might not find him anymore, but it's just kind of like, you know, you got to go back and it's still going to be wherever you left it. Like God's still going to be right there. God's actually going to keep going with you, looking for it. And even when you lost it, like he's going to be like, okay, I'm just going to watch you. Like, you know, I know you're wrong. I know you think I'm not here, but I'm right there. And like I said, like he doesn't force anything upon us. And if we want things our own way, then he's going to let us. And the crazy thing is that he's going to watch us, you know, walk in our own path. And then once we realize that, you know, our path isn't the right path, then he's still going to be faithful to us, and he's going to help us get back onto the right path. And he's never going to tell you, I told you so. And he's never going to be like, I told you weren't going to do this, right? Like, you know, like what is wrong with you? And I mean, he finds ways to like tell us that without actually saying it, obviously.
Just hear
Yeah,
you just go ahead.
Yeah, it's like a little spiritual slap on the face. But but then I remember like, okay, God, you're right. Like you're always right. Like it's not what I want to do. Like I need to stop thinking that he isn't here. It's just me like thinking, you know, I can do this on my own, and I'm going to try on my own because, you know, God, you helped me this far. I think I can get to the next step on my own. And so pretty much just retracing my steps and trying to figure out where it is that I lost the right mindset.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, Pastor Doug, what do you do when you feel that God is not near?
So for me, I like to do a lot of things by myself. I'm one of those people that wouldn't ask for help a lot. And I feel like I kind of do that sometimes with God as well, where I say, you helped me with this, but I got it from here, or I'll do this part by myself, or something like that. And it's just kind of either coming to a realization where it's like I'm just being dumb again and not asking God for help and not letting God be in this part, or coming down and hitting rock bottom where you're just like, yep, you're right. And even though, like Leslie said, he's not there to tell you, I told you so, he is there to kind of help you get back up. So it's always going to be that hard to come and realize, maybe no, if I could do it correctly, I probably wouldn't be in this in the first place. So just kind of taking a step back and saying, no, messing up, I'm screwing things up, but just because I'm trying to do it by myself. So in those moments is kind of where you just need to kind of remind yourself and start seeking God more and saying, God, give me more of your wisdom.
Yeah, I like that. And coming back to, honestly, just coming back to like where God is in your life, if you've taken your eyes off him and you've walked away. And honestly, so for me, it's like realizing, oh, what am I doing? That if I feel like God is not near, if I feel like I have to go seek for him again, that's kind of the clue for me to say, what am I doing? What am I distracting myself with, and what am I putting in front of God? Because the only reason why he wouldn't be near me, and the only reason why I wouldn't be able to find him, is because I'm finding something else instead. Because I've put my attention in something else, put my efforts into something else, and so that means I'm intentionally putting him on the back burner, and that's the reason why it feels like he's not around, is because I've been the one to create that distance. So I think it's a realization moment for me that if I feel like he's not close, then that means there's something that I need to adjust in my own life. And even if it seems innocent, like if it could be, I don't want to use cheesy examples, but I mean, really in any kind of activity that you do, whether it's no matter how innocent, like let's say exercising, right? Exercising can take the place of God if you're not careful. If you value your time at the gym more than you value your time with God, then you're going to realize that when he doesn't feel so close anymore.
So that brings us back to when we were talking about false idols. Like I've noticed that
So
a lot with Pastor David's sermons, is that sometimes they're full circle.
Mm-hmm.
That
it's like a mirror.
Even though he's saying it in a, like, not saying that he's redundant, because what I'm about to say will make it sound that way, but what he's saying is just a different way of saying what he said a couple weeks ago. And like I said, not to say that he's being redundant, but it just, and he probably doesn't even realize that I'm making, or that somebody's making that connection. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I got a health coach this weekend. I'm about to start this weight loss program that is way too expensive for my tastes. But I don't hold myself accountable when it comes to exercise. You just reminded me of this. So like I had seen the program. No, that's okay. No, it ties into what I'm about to say, so it works perfectly. So I had seen the program and I had seen that it works, of course, and then from people close to me who I actually know personally, I've seen it work for them. But I'm like, man, I cannot justify spending that kind of money on that. So I started, and then I started really, really just like, girl, go for a walk, go do something. And then, this kind of just plopped in my lap, where Dustin's cousin is doing it. And so it's like this huge thing. Anyway, I won't get into it too much, but the point is that it's been like flashing in my face for the last couple months that, hey, this is probably the best program for you because you don't have self-discipline. So maybe you need to be put on a program to have that discipline. And so I just bit the bullet and I did it. And I, she asked me all these questions. She was like, how, what's your weight? What's your height? What's all the blah, blah, blah questions that nobody ever wants to answer. Like, you want to know my weight? None of your business. So,
It's the last thing you'll ever hear.
Right. And then she was like, well, how do you feel that your overall health is? And I said, mental health, probably about a 6. Physical health, probably a 3. And spiritual health, 100% a 10. And, we were FaceTiming. She just kind of got taken aback a little bit. And I was like, cool. Cool. I didn't know that would be so surprising. But and even though like I don't think that God was like, here, do this weight loss program. I think that it was more of a, hey, here's your opportunity to give it a shot. And that's kind of how you have to look at Christianity too, where it goes back to what I was saying earlier about paying attention to the people in your life rather than the events or the manifestation of God. And so it just all ties in together, and it blows my mind, and it makes me want to like those billboards or those cork boards where all the red yarn is going around
like
from one point to another, and they're just like, this ties into this and this ties into this and this is it, and then nobody understands what you're saying at all. You're
describing how my brain works every single day.
Right, exactly, and that's what my journey has taken. So I found a couple ways to feel God when I feel like He's not there. One is 100% prayer. Even if it's just a, hey God, I hope you hear me, I hope you see me, because I feel you and I need you here. So even if it's just as quick as that. So prayer 100%, and then my daily devotionals from my Bible app. Those are the ones that really make me feel it. And it's so funny and it's so cliche. I never thought I would be that person where it's like, well, my daily devotional really changed my life. Well, let me tell you that my daily devotional really changed my outlook on life. I'm not saying that like I read that devotional and immediately my life was changed, but it changed my headspace.
Yeah.
And it changed and my spiritual space. So I don't know. It's another one of those things where all our walks are different, and however we seek it, there's no wrong answer. Of course there isn't, and that just goes to show that you're welcome. Hello, like come join us, and however you say that you feel the Spirit, then that's how you feel the Spirit. We're not going to sit here and be like, oh, that's not how I feel the Spirit, so you're wrong.
Well, and I think you're going to find that more and more. The more you read the Bible, the more everything does connect.
No, I was just going to say not only that, but following God is free. You have to pay for that.
That's true. There's no subscription to God, thankfully.
I mean, you do have to go to church once a week. If you don't have to, but it's recommended. So
right.
That's the subscription.
Yeah, keep meeting at least you and one other person is what it takes. You and one other person. That's what's going to happen with the Bible is the more that you get to know it, the more everything does connect, and that's why you find with like every single theme connects with another theme. And that's why you hear me like quoting all these different verses. I'm like, oh, that's like this verse. Oh, that's like this verse. Oh, that's like this verse. And it's because it just does. It feeds into itself, which it should. That's one of the good ways to know that you're on the right track when you're learning the Bible, when you're getting to know God more, is because it will feed back on itself. All right, well, we are getting close to time, so we are going to go ahead and say goodbye and thank Doug and Leslie for being a part of this podcast. Thank you guys for being on this episode. We will definitely have you back in the future, and it'll be way more fun when we have you back in person, when we're actually recording in a studio. So any final thoughts before we close out?
Nope,
Thank you for having us. You guys are the best. Oops, sorry.
Yeah,
nope, that's good.
All right. Well, Kendra, why don't you close us out?
So thank you, Pastor Doug and Pastor Leslie, for being here with us. I cannot wait to be able to do this in person. 100%. It's going to be so much better, so much more incredible, and so much more personal. Yeah. Not that this goes bad, but it's a lot more personal. So I appreciate that you guys took the time to be with us tonight, and we look forward to having you guys on again soon.
Look forward to being on soon.
Yeah, thank you guys again for inviting us to do it.
Yeah, of course. And maybe we'll even do a Spanish version if it catches on.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to hear Steven
Yeah.
speaking Spanish.
No, not Steven and I.
Translate.
No. That'll all be you two. We'll just be here to be like, yep,
Yep. We can translate everything you say.
holding up our Google Translate. All right, guys.
I
Well,
think
thank
this
you.
is the answer.
Yeah, right. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. And to everybody listening, prayers and love, everybody.